Hey everyone, Mario again coming at you with another literature review, and it's another Stephen King short story review. This one's probably only going to be a couple minutes long because it's one of the shorter stories in the Night Shift collection, but it's one I decided to just do a quick little review of. It's more thoughts than review because not really much to say about it because not really much of a short story. It, of course, is Night Surf. It's one that I really do enjoy. I definitely wouldn't put it on my favorite short stories list, though, but it's an interesting one, and part of the reason for that is that you could kind of call this the prototype for The Stand in a way, because it is a short story about these humans. They're college-age kids who are alive following a viral outbreak that they call Captain Trips, and it is a super flu. Now you can see why I say that's the prototype for The Stand, because that's basically what happens at the beginning of The Stand. Super flu kills out a majority of humans, some are immune to it. Now, unlike that one, where the people who are immune to it have to fight the devil incarnate himself, Randall Flagg. In this one, there's basically no hope for humanity. We're just living life day by day until, or at least that's what our narrator Bernie is thinking. That's right, his name is Bernie, and the little funny thing is that they're on a beach at night. So it's basically a weekend at Bernie's thing. Bernie! You know, that was going through my head as I was rereading it. Now, they call the virus A6, and then this Captain Trips, and it mentioned that it came out of Southeast Asia. Now, I didn't look up the year that King wrote this, but he would have written this around the time of Vietnam, either when the war was still in progress or right after it ended. So I could see why he decided to set it there, that in the world of the story, that it probably came either from some soldiers returning home following the war, or through trade following the war, or at the very tail end of the war, and just spread from there, and, you know, everyone's dead. That's just what I'm getting at. Now, it basically focuses on this one evening in the life of these kids, you know. We can find out a little bit about the war, not the war. We find out a little bit about what happened, how once the outbreak started and people started dying, they started rounding up bodies and burying them in mass graves. How the kids, when we first see them, they're coming back from burning this guy alive on the pier because he was nearing the final stages of the flu, and they felt, you know, it's more humane to burn him now, even though he's going to be alive when we do it, than to just let him continue to suffer. I mean, he might not think it's a mercy with what they're doing, but it's better than what's to come. Which it sounds a little inhumane, but it's one of those things you got to think about. If you were in a situation like this, and you saw someone suffering like that, would you want to put them out of their misery? Now, the flip with this is that they're doing it in a burning thing, and as Bernie mentions in the text, they were doing it kind of as like an appeasement to the dark gods. So, I don't know if that's a little bit of King's Lovecraftian influence there. He has to put that in there, at least as what they're on a dark subconscious level using as their justification. But it's one thing I noticed. Maybe I'm still having Jerusalem's Lot on the brain, but it's one thing to notice. Morals, and they still have a little bit of their morals, but it hasn't gone to like Lord of the Flies level yet. But you can tell that they're thinking, you know, society's gone. We're going to try to keep some semblance of our morality here, but we're just living it day by day, like I said. And of course, near the end, we find out one of the characters is coming down with the flu, which makes Bernie and a couple of the other characters a little worried. Mainly because apparently there was another flu before Captain Trips called A2, Hong Kong flu. And with how things go, if you've had that, you're supposed to be immune to Captain Trips. But this guy said he had A2 and now he's getting A6, so they're wondering, did the guy lie when they found him so they take him with him? And there's a little thing about, you know, no one likes being alone. And of course, it brings up the thing. If he had A2 and now he's getting A6, does that mean the rest of them are not going to be immune? Or is immunity only temporary? And of course, it ends on a note that I actually want to read this last paragraph. The surf coming in, coming in, coming in, limitless, clean and deep. We had come here in the summer, Maureen and I, the summer after high school, the summer before college, in reality, in A6 coming out of Southeast Asia, in covering the world like a pall. July, we had eaten pizza and listened to her radio. I had put oil on her back, she had put oil on mine. The air had been hot, the sand bright, the sun like a burning glass. I know it doesn't really sound like much, but I think that kind of sums up the tone that permeates the story all throughout. It's very bleak. doesn't really have a good outlook on the future. Then again, the situation they're in, you kind of see why. And he's just living it day by day. And it's not really much of a short story. Like Jerusalem's Lot, I could see it being adapted for a Stephen King anthology film. It's also one that it'd be an interesting one to do for Dollar Baby if no one has yet. Make an interesting short film for a student project. In an anthology film, it could be the opener. There's really not much to it. You just do it as the opener. It's an interesting little read. Definitely one of the ones that King did earlier in his career. Like I said, not one of his better ones that I would put in a top 10, but it's one I enjoy reading. Sometimes I might skip through it and come back to it later, but it's one I always do read. And like I said a couple times already, it is the prototype for The Stand. Now, whether or not it actually exists in the same universe as The Stand, kind of debatable given the whole multiverse thing that King has, but I'm sure it probably does. I mean, Captain Trips and all that. It would make sense, given the government's thing about misinformation, that these kids think that it came out of Southeast Asia when it could just be the cover-up that the government's given for something they invented. Because we all know the government would probably say something like that if they did invent a superflu. They'd be like, oh, no, this came from Southeast Asia. Nowadays, they'd be saying, no, this is a terrorist attack.